Anchor's up, sells it full. Welcome to the Sloopcast. How are you doing today, Kyle?
Doing pretty well. How are you doing, Jared?
Doing all right. Not going to complain. Kyle, we actually, we had a pretty light chaos week 1.
But it came in full force. It came in full force week 2.
Yeah, it did.
A lot of close calls, some upsets here. But let's not waste any time here because we got a lot of games to talk about here.
All right.
A lot of games to talk about, and then we'll get right into our chart here and where each team goes to. So let's kind of start from the top that we have here, Jared.
Sorry. I switched to the wrong thing again. This is me still being in the lead on the SlooPicks. God, I keep accidentally turning this.
Oh man, look at
this
that
chart on. Gosh.
Man. Very professional view, Jared.
Yeah. Still no scores in Chaos Theory. Although I will say, we all got very close. All of these games came down to the wire. Kyle and I chose Oklahoma State to be upset by Arkansas. And Kyle, was that game like 28-0 at one point? It was at least 21-0 at some point in favor of Arkansas. Oklahoma State comes back and wins it. Odin had picked K-State to be upset, and that game again was incredibly close. I thought for a while that Tulsa was going to win that. They had some stupid plays down the stretch, cost them the game. So no scores yet on Chaos Theory. I think there's some good options for week 3, but we'll talk about that on Tuesday.
Yep.
All right, Kyle. This is the chart I wanted. This is the famous tier chart, the tier listing.
So I put in our show notes here.
Yeah.
All the games I want to talk about. So we will cover each of the teams that we have listed up here based on the games that we got here. So first off, Team Chaos takes its first soul of the year, or no, Florida State was.
Hold
that.
on. Wait, I'm sorry. What did you say, Kyle? Did you say Florida State?
Yeah.
Now, Florida State's currently sitting at B on our tier list. Now, because of the goofy way the schedule and our schedule and the game schedule lined up last week, this is where we left them because we had not yet seen their second loss when we made this tier list last.
That is correct. Yeah. So they go all the way down. They are the first team to go down into M tier.
Our first M tier entrance.
Yes.
Austin says Michigan to M tier or ban for the ban and the loss. I don't care if it's the correct thing to do or not. Not yet. Not yet, Austin.
Yet. It'll come. All right.
Notre Dame
losing to Northern Illinois. I think Notre Dame was a 28.5 point favorite in that game here. Man, that's tough. Now, do they deserve to go to M tier? No. I'd bump them all the way from our S tier all the way down to B tier. I think
I
B
agree.
tier because they can still win out. If they somehow win out, they're a playoff team. So
they can still finish in the top 12, which is all they have to do.
That's what they need to do.
11.
Yes. So S tier down to B tier, I think
11
makes the perfect sense here.
But once again, to correct myself, top 11, not top 12.
All right. Let's see. Louisville, which I don't even know. Where do we have Louisville at? Are they even?
We still have Louisville down in C tier, which I think we should correct.
I think we should move Louisville up to B tier, and because we're going to be moving a bunch of teams around.
We are.
I think Louisville C to B tier makes sense. They beat up Jacksonville State as they should, 49-14.
Yeah. Now, Kyle, a real quick question. You talked about Notre Dame, but you didn't mention who Notre Dame lost to.
Yeah, I did. I said Northern Illinois.
Okay, you mentioned it.
I did mention it.
But should we talk about NIU on the playoff bubble? Remember, we have to have one group of 5 conference champion in the playoffs.
Do you even have Northern Illinois on here?
I added them before the show started because I'm a goddamn professional.
I don't feel comfortable putting them up to B tier. I understand what you're saying. Give me a couple of weeks to see how well they do. I'm not there yet with Northern Illinois. Yes, great win on the road in Notre Dame.
What did they do week 1?
There, but
what did they do week 1?
I don't know what they did week 1. You want me to look it up?
Look it up, Kyle. Look it up. Boom, boom. We haven't done that in a minute. That's also not going to come through on the noise gate, but that's okay. I just haven't done that in a while, and I wanted to do it. That's it. I just wanted to do it.
Let's see. They beat Western Illinois.
Okay. But was it decisive?
Yeah, 54-15.
Kyle? Huskies at B tier.
No, not yet.
All right.
Not yet.
I disagree, but we'll move forward.
All right. The battle.
They're definitely high C. They're definitely high C, Zach.
Agree. The battle for the Cy-Hawk. Man, Hawkeyes should have won that, but Cyclones came back and got that last second field goal there. I gotta put the Hawkeyes down.
I agree.
Down to C tier right now.
I completely agree. Zach, did you just give the up arrows to your own comment?
He did. Is Iowa really chaos if it's Iowa?
Yeah. They were a ranked team. They lost to an unranked team. They qualify as chaos, I would say. I didn't put them in the thumbnail, although, so, you know.
All right, for what it's worth. Utah wins by 11 points against Baylor. Utah stays where they're at. I just want to mention that they had a close win, which there are a number of other teams that came out with a close win here. So Utah stays where they're at. Georgia takes care of business over Tennessee Tech, so they stay where they're at.
And we talked about the Ohio State game in our Monday episode. You can go listen to our thoughts about that. And just for the sake of saying it, in case this is someone's first trip into a Collegiate Chaos episode here at the Sloopcast, the tiers are tiers. They are not. This just because Ohio State is the first team in the S tier does not mean that we have them number 1. The tiers are the tiers. They are not ranked within the tiers. Just tossing that out there.
All right. Texas heading on up to Ann Arbor and just absolutely demolishes them.
Utter domination.
Michigan gets a scrappy late touchdown to get over 10 points in the game.
They're already in S tier, Zach. They started the season in S tier for us. We knew. You can go listen to our SlooPicks episode on Friday. We laughed our asses off when we heard that, or no, that would have been last week's Collegiate Chaos. When we heard that the line opened at 2.5, we laughed our asses off.
It almost immediately went up to 7.5, but it opened at 2.5, which was ridiculous.
I still put money on it. I broke rule number 2. I real life gambled. That's how sure I was.
31-12. 31-12. Michigan has some real big issues on the offense. Big issues.
Yeah. Kyle, their offense is one big issue. By the way, Texas passed Ohio State in the AP. Ohio State falls to number 3 in the AP. Texas moves up to number 2. It doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter.
No, don't care.
And you know what? Michigan didn't deserve to be number 10. They were. Texas got a top 10 victory.
Question.
They moved up a spot. It's fine.
More important question. Does Michigan move down from B tier?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They're not making the playoffs.
They go to C for now. Yep, they go to C for now. I know that we had someone in the chat here said Michigan to M tier. Kind of like Northern Illinois. Just give it some time.
we don't like to take wild swings on our depth chart. We like to keep things smooth. We don't like to be prisoners of the
drop 2.
Hey, we waited until they got a second loss before we dropped them.
We did, yes. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a quick ad break, and we're going to go ahead and continue some of these other games here. So head on over to thesloopcast.com, our main page here, to check out all of the different links to our YouTube page, to our Discord server, over to Patreon to become a patron. Patreon.thesloopcast.com. If you want to support the podcast here, head on over there, and a lot of other merch store information and other nifty links there. Again, thesloopcast.com is the landing page to find all those links. So we'll go ahead and take a quick ad break and be right back.
What's the next game, Kyle?
Next game is Kansas State with the narrow victory over the Green Wave of Tulane, 34-27.
The Tulane.
I think Kansas State stays at B tier. I still don't think they're the top team for the Big 12 here. So they say where they're at B tier.
Yeah, but if Tulane deserves to move up just for that. I have them pretty high up in the C tier. Again, I know I said the tier list is the tier list, but you can kind of see with the B and the C specifically that we kind of put the better teams over on the left. So you can see we have NIU over on the left and we have Tulane over on the left. They're not meant to be it's not meant to be a hard rating, but it's more of a tool to help me find teams when we're supposed to be talking about teams. But yeah, no, I would keep an eye on Tulane. Honestly, I would keep an eye on Tulane. I think they
absolutely,
they just have to make waves in their own conference, which could lead to them getting in the playoffs. So 100% keeping an eye on Tulane.
I'm just trying to pull up the stats for this next game here. Georgia Tech, losing to Syracuse. Syracuse jumped out, I think it was 21-7, I think it was in the second quarter. And Georgia Tech made it very interesting in the fourth quarter. But Syracuse with Kyle McCord pulls out the victory. Kyle McCord just playing it lights out so far this year. I think he's around 750 yards and 8 touchdowns through 2 games already. I mean,
change the scenery did him good.
Hats off to him. I'm happy he's doing well, and he found a home.
I'll say this: putting up statistics was never his issue at Ohio State. Just for what it's worth, that was not. He put up statistics at Ohio State. That wasn't the issue.
Yeah.
Now, Kyle, we currently have.
Here's the question. Does Syracuse move up?
Does Georgia Tech move down? We have Georgia Tech sitting in B tier. We have Syracuse sitting in C tier. It only feels right that we swap them.
I think it feels right that we swap them. Yes, we do. Understand Georgia Tech started off really strong, beating Florida State. But is that Florida State win all that great anymore?
That's that Florida, sure, when you're the first team that does it, but when you're the second team,
All right, let's see. Penn State, man, Penn State
Escapes.
comes back
Yeah.
from behind to beat the Falcons of Bowling Green. Oh, I should have had my hat out. Oh well, beats Bowling Green 34 to 27. And here's the thing.
Should we drop Penn State?
Bowling Green was in this, not like they were very efficient against Penn State in that first half. It wasn't just a fluke that they were leading at halftime.
No,
but
it was not.
Hats off to Penn State that they shut down Bowling Green in the second half and pulled out the victory here. But yes, to Jared's question here, does Penn State drop from A to B tier?
I say right now, in my opinion, they're not better than Tennessee or Missouri.
Yeah.
I think to keep, again, if this is anyone's first Collegiate Chaos episode, the combination of S and A tier is our playoff prediction and therefore must equal 12 teams. To put someone into A tier, we have to bring someone out of A tier. Or, again, the combination of S and A has to equal 12. It doesn't matter how many is in S and how many is in A, but they have to combine for 12.
So I'm going to say for this week, I know they looked really good week 1 against West Virginia, but they needed to take care of business at home against Bowling Green here,
and West Virginia,
and with other teams that did really well in these first couple weeks here. I'm going to say drop Penn State to B tier, but they're right there on that cusp of A and B tiers. But for our rankings for week 2, Penn State goes down to B tier, but they're on that cusp there.
All right. Do you want to have the conversation of who we move up to?
We'll get there. We'll get there. I want to go through the rest of the games here.
Okay.
Oklahoma State beats Arkansas. I thought Arkansas was going to win that game, but Oklahoma State in 2 overtimes beats Arkansas there. I think kind of like Penn State, I think Oklahoma State's right on that cusp there of A and B tier, but I feel comfortable of keeping Oklahoma State in B tier for week 2.
I don't like Arkansas, and I don't like Oklahoma State. I don't think they're on the cusp of A at all.
That's
to
fine.
be honest with you.
All right. Ole Miss takes care of business over Middle Tennessee. They still look like a really good team. They stay in A tier. Miami takes care of business over Florida A&M. Wherever Miami's at, they stay where they're at.
Yeah, I would say they're a solid A tier team right now.
Missouri, I think I saw Missouri as a B tier. Shuts out Buffalo 38-0. That's fine. Fighting.
Let's not that's fine past that. That's fine past that, Kyle. Missouri, along with Tennessee, we need to have the conversation. Which one of them moves up into A tier? We moved Penn State out.
I was going to wait until we talked about Tennessee here, which I guess I'll skip ahead here. So Tennessee, I want to say struggled against NC State because NC State has a pretty good defense, but I knew if this game was close and NC State wasn't putting up points, that Tennessee, with the talent that they have, would just pull away from NC State, and they did that and what they did that and more against NC State.
I don't want to
51-10.
I don't want to use the word struggle anywhere in there. It's just like
no.
It's NC State stuck with them for a bit, and then that was the end of that.
That's the argument I think here, Zach. Tennessee should go to A, says Zach here, and I would say so. Based on what I've seen so far from Missouri and Tennessee, if we're looking at these two teams to go up to A tier, I would say just based on what the results were and who they played, I'd put Tennessee up to A tier right now.
Now, Kyle, I know I'm skipping ahead again, and I know you keep getting mad at me for doing that, and I apologize. Who deserves to be an A tier more right now? Oregon or Missouri? Because I don't think the answer is Oregon.
That's a good point. Well, let's talk about the Oregon game. Oregon, was that last second or it was near? I don't know if it was last second field goal or near the end with a few seconds left, but Oregon wins off a field goal 37-34 over Boise State. But yeah, that's a great question here. Should
Oregon struggled in week 1 as well?
Yeah, I'd say do it. Like, based on what we've seen here, yeah, Oregon falls down to B tier, like with Penn State. Even though they've won 2 games here, Oregon has not looked how they should. They should have been dominating both of their games so far this year, and they have not. And there's other teams that have. So yeah, I would say Missouri would go up there. Now, looking at that, you see 6 SEC teams up there right now.
Kyle, look at the AP right now.
Go. No, I understand. Yeah, 4 of the top 5 are SECs.
No, keep going.
Yeah,
keep going. 6 of the top 7.
6 of the top 7. Yeah,
are SEC teams. And here's the thing: they aren't wrong.
No,
should Penn State drop as well? We already dropped Penn State.
Yep, we dropped Penn State to B tier.
Yeah.
Yeah, Illinois,
we just dropped 2 Big Ten teams into B tier, and we moved 2 SEC teams up. In the battle between the Power 2 right now, the SEC is winning. Now, that being said, it's week 2, so let's not overreact to that.
Yep. All right. Illinois defeats Kansas 23-17. It's a great win for the University of Illinois there, defeating at 19th ranked Kansas. I dropped Kansas down to C tier.
I agree. I 100% agree. I don't even think that's debatable. Now the question is, and I'm going to say no to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
But why don't you ask it after this next ad break here? So we're going to take our second ad break real quick here.
Dirty. It's a dirty ad break.
And we'll be right back.
That was a filthy tease, Kyle. Filthy.
All right. Now ask your question.
Well, here's the thing, though. It's not going to live up to that. The tease is better. The tease is better than the question. That's the problem, because you're just going to say no to me right away. Do we move Illinois up?
Well, then we'll move on. If I'm going to say no.
No, I still have to ask it. I still have to pay it off.
All right.
Do we move Illinois up into B?
No.
Yeah, no. You see, it didn't live up to the tease was better than the payoff.
You gave me like half a second thought about it, but no. LSU defeats Nichols 44-21. This was a closer game than it should have been.
This was a bad game for LSU.
It was.
I'm not saying we move LSU down to B or down to C tier, but I am going to move them over here to the edge of B tier. I know I said that the tier list is the tier list and yada, yada, yada.
14-23 at halftime. I'm sorry, 23-14. Yeah, 23-14 at halftime.
By the way,
a lot closer than it should have been.
We talked about Oregon. We probably should have talked about Boise while we were talking about Oregon. Boise is still currently sitting in our B tier. I say we leave them.
We leave them there too. Like they're
again. There has to be one team.
The good thing about these,
there has to be one team from the group of 5. This does not affect Boise's opportunity to win their conference. And
that's the good thing about a lot of these non-conference games is for most of these teams, it doesn't really do much for them. It doesn't really do much. Like look at Texas. This is a perfect example for Texas. Great win on the road against Ann Arbor. or up in Ann Arbor, but in the end, it doesn't really matter too much, especially if it comes to the seeding for Texas. Like Texas is a playoff team as long as they don't lay an egg the rest of the year here. But in terms of where they're going to be ranked at, yeah, absolutely. This is going to be the game did not matter. The game did not matter.
I hope that this leads to more high profile out of conference games. Because
I agree.
Again, at the end of the day, Boise losing to Oregon doesn't actually hurt their playoff chances. Yeah. And technically, of course, Michigan sucks anyway, but like losing to Texas doesn't really affect their playoff chances that bad.
No.
Same thing with Clemson and, some other teams that have lost some high profile out of conference games early.
Yep. All right. I'm going to try to finish the rest of these games here. Alabama beat South Florida convincingly 42-16.
It looks convincingly, but if you watch that football game, South Florida was in that for a while.
They were. I'm trying to pull it up real quick.
That final score does not tell the tale of that game.
You are right. It was, and actually, Jared, yeah, it was 14-13 Alabama going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Alabama scored a ton of points in the fourth. You are right. But I still have them a favorite to win. They have such a stellar team, like Oregon, but I think they kind of further themselves a little bit from Georgia, Ohio State, and Texas right now. I think there's a top three.
Yeah. As we've mentioned before the season started, there's your top three.
Well, we had a top four. It's just that Oregon hasn't lived up to being in that top four. So we're now talking about a top three. I quite frankly, I don't know if I want Bama in S tier anymore. I don't see them as a force right now. Maybe that's an overreaction to one game against USF. But
it might be, but we can have a discussion next week. We'll see. Actually, I don't know if Alabama plays next week. There's a lot of teams that
there's a lot of teams not playing next week.
We'll talk more about it next week. Oklahoma squeaks out that win against Houston, 16-12.
Not a good showing for Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean they still stay in B tier to me.
Yeah, I'm not dropping them down to C tier, but you and I am going to do. I'm going to put them over here with LSU though.
I agree. I would definitely agree with that. It's you look at the other SEC teams that's above them. You got
that you're
Georgia,
absolutely right,
Texas,
Kyle. That has to
Alabama,
be taken into
Missouri,
consideration.
Ole Miss and Tennessee ahead of them. Yeah, SEC's stacked this year. SEC is stacked.
We haven't talked about it. We talked about Tennessee. We didn't talk about NC State, who Tennessee beat. Did they drop down to C tier after getting walloped by Tennessee? They weren't competitive, Kyle.
Yeah, I would say yeah. NC State go down to C tier as well. Yeah.
Bama has a bye week next week, then goes to Madison on 9/14. No, 9/14 would be next week.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Bama, Wisconsin is next week.
Yes.
I forgot that was next week. Yeah. I looked up the weather for that, by the way, 77 degrees, which means Bama's winning by 30.
Yep. Not cold enough. Yeah. NC State can go down to C tier. Yep. All right. Clemson beats Appalachian State 66-20. Doesn't do anything for me to move Clemson up after their humiliating loss in week one. That doesn't. I just can't put any. We have to put one ACC team
in Miami
in the playoffs, but it's Miami right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, not that I think Syracuse is necessarily all that great, but I think they've had some good games against some not great teams, but I put Syracuse in before I put Clemson in there right now.
The last two games here, Arizona beats Northern Arizona 22-10. Not a good showing for Arizona.
Nope.
I think they go
against
on the back end of B tier.
Northern Arizona Lumberjacks.
Yeah. I think they kind of distanced themselves in B tier. They kind of moved back towards the back there after week 2's showing here. And then USC shutting out Utah State 48-0.
I know Utah State isn't a powerhouse. However, if you've seen USC's defense play defense anytime in the past 2 or so years, you know that shutting out literally anybody is a huge deal.
Yeah.
So good on USC.
Watch out for USC. Definitely watch out for USC here.
Kyle, I'm liking the tier list. My question for you, however,
we got
Coastal
11.
Carolina.
We have 11 in here. I wouldn't even know who they played. Who did?
And wait a minute, you're right. Do we only have 11?
We only have 11 because I think we took 2 down.
We took 3. We had to. Oh, Notre Dame.
Yeah,
we took Oregon, Penn State, and Notre Dame down. So, do we want to move Oregon, Nebraska?
They played William and
Louisville
Mary Tribe 40, and they won 40-21. I mean, who else would you?
Boise.
I think Coastal Carolina. I think Coastal Carolina you keep there.
Boise
for right now, but who do you move up to?
Boise.
Who do you move up to A tier?
Boise.
Oh, you want to swap Boise and Coastal Carolina, even though Coastal Carolina is 2-0 and Boise is 1-1?
Yeah. Boise took Oregon, who we have marked.
I understand.
Okay, but let me say it anyway because we're recording a show here. Boise took one of the teams that's at least in the preseason, had Oregon as a favorite to win it all, and they took them to a field goal.
But I can't put Boise in A tier when Oregon is sitting in B tier.
Well, I mean, technically, we have 11. We can put Oregon back and then swap. And by the way, yes, you can, because one of them is getting in that 12th. Boise would be getting in on that 12th spot. It is what it is, Kyle. It's like college basketball. There are bubble teams who we all know are better than conference champions who are going to make it.
Go ahead and put Oregon. Go ahead and put Oregon back in at the tail end of A tier.
Oregon's back in.
Yep, because I'm looking at who else would go into A tier. Is it Oklahoma State?
No.
You could Kansas State?
No.
Oklahoma?
I agree.
I mean those are really the only other teams that I have on my list that you can really talk about.
Nebraska.
I think a team that's really Jared. I think a team that's really making some noise here again. Let's see them play some really good competition here coming up. But Nebraska looking really strong so far. They beat UTEP 40-7. So yeah,
on Colorado.
Keep an eye on Nebraska. Yeah, and they beat Colorado. Yeah, so keep Nebraska in B tier
against Colorado.
Nebraska stays in B tier, but keep an eye on them.
Okay, but once again, Coastal Carolina.
I will say if we're going off if we're going off the AP, if we are going off of the AP,
we're not.
Northern Illinois.
You wouldn't even let me put them in B tier, Kyle.
I know. You know, go ahead and put Northern Illinois in B tier. Let's put them in B tier.
Can we talk about?
Let's show them some. Let's show them some love. Let's show them some love. Northern Illinois, the Huskies.
Northern Illinois beat Northern Indiana. That they deserve some credit for that. What about Memphis? I said Missouri earlier. I meant to say Memphis.
What has Memphis done? You tell me. You tell me.
Listen, I'm just saying they're a group of 5 team to keep an eye out on. I'm not saying they have some sort of insane resume right now. You're not going to find a lot of group of 5 teams with an insane resume right now. I'm just saying that they're a group of 5 team to keep an eye on.
Sure.
That's all I'm saying.
So Northern Illinois is, and again, this is based on the AP. Northern Illinois is 25th. Boise State is a few points behind them, not ranked, and then right behind them is Memphis that Jared just mentioned about, and Liberty is on there as well. So I think it's fine. And interesting enough, Jared, Coastal Carolina doesn't even have any votes from the AP.
This is what I'm saying. Like, I kind of don't want Coastal Carolina up there, and it's not because of the AP. It's just because I don't think they deserve it. That's all.
What say you,
Also,
Zach?
I just moved Memphis up too.
All right. What say you, Zach? Do you have a preference of which group of 5 or group of 6, whatever the number is right now?
No, we didn't add the Pac-12 to it. There's only 2 teams in there. It's still the group of 5.
You know, the more I'm thinking about it, like we should reward Northern Illinois.
Yeah, now we're talking.
More for their victory there.
Now we're talking.
Northern Illinois over Boise State, just because they are undefeated over Boise State.
I mean, I still think it should be Boise, but if we're going to put the Huskies into A tier, I'm down. I'd like to wait on Northern. See, I actually agree. Zach says I would say Boise. I'd like to wait on Northern Illinois. I actually agree. Neither of you are wrong. I think you both have good logic. At the end of the day, though, Northern Illinois got their upset and Boise didn't.
I'm just happy to see a MAC team up there, though.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Let's just keep a MAC team up there, just because. Jared.
Listen, if we put a different group of 5 team into the A tier every single week, I'm not going to be upset about it.
All right. That's all the games. That's all the games I care about talking about here. We got just a few questions here, and we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Zach asks, does Oregon suck?
They are currently disappointing.
They are struggling. They don't suck, but they are struggling.
They are not living up to expectations. They're below expectations. That's not to say that they can't get better as the season goes. We are only 2 weeks in. I hereby promise not to overreact to 2 weeks of college football. That being said, they are not currently living up to expectations. I'm not going to say that they suck quite yet.
And Kabuto asks, should they change the rule to allow every player to have coach-to-player comms? Why or why not? I'm going to say no. It's just you don't want too many cooks in the kitchen there. You don't.
I mean, the comms are only going one way. It just lets everyone hear it.
Maybe not everybody, but maybe you could have multiple. Like you could have I don't know, 3 or something like that.
But it's also
especially on the defensive side, you could have one for the defensive line, linebackers, and secondary.
Yeah, here's a problem with the defense because you have so much on the offense, your quarterback's in the game, right? At Ohio State, and maybe this is what spurred Kabuto's question. You had Cody Simon in there with the green sticker doing stuff, but then Cody Simon came out. So then they had to do a helmet swap with Sonny Styles because he had to take on the green sticker. So that's just kind of a pain in the ass, right? I almost feel like you should be able to have maybe not all 11.
3.
But you should have multiples on the defense. I think you should have multiples on the defense.
I would agree with that.
Again, just to avoid the BS stuff of like, oh, our guy with the green sticker came out. Who wants to deal with that shuffle?
Yeah. All right. That is it. That is all of the games. That is all of the questions. Week 2, Team Chaos took some souls here. And yeah, I think even though looking at week 3 here, there's not many great games, but I think there could be some upsets here. We'll talk more about that on Friday's episode.
We'll talk about that on Friday's episode. I have my eye on a couple chaos theory picks.
All right, we'll save that for Friday.
Oh yeah. Kyle, this is a tease. I'm a professional. Remember?
Yes.
I'm very professional. This recording session. Other recording sessions, not so much. This one, high professional. Highly professional. Extremely professional. So that's just a tease. I think there's a chaos theory opportunities next week. For sure. All right, Kyle. Do you have anything in Kyle's Corner?
I've been looking, and no, I don't. I don't. There wasn't really much of anything. I was looking to see if there was really any recruits that came this weekend. There's a few 4-star players for the 2026 class and some others for beyond that as well, but nothing big in terms of for the 2025 class here.
2025 class kind of done.
Yeah, 2025 is kind of done. Yeah.
I think we talked about this at the end of one of our episodes last week, so forgive me for repeating myself, but they might have to replace Offord at corner. Maybe go get Brew or one of the other guys you missed on who maybe didn't want to come here because the recruiting class at corner was a little crowded. Maybe you persuade one of the 2 guys who went to Oregon to come to Ohio State, especially if Oregon's not looking all that good. So you might have some cornerback recruiting to do. You might have some offensive, maybe if you can add a really good piece. I don't want to add a body just to add a body at offensive line, but if you can flip a really high profile tackle along the offensive line, you're going to keep working all of those relationships the best you can. But for the most part, the recruiting class feels kind of done for 2025 already. It feels now, again, we have new recruiting caps next year. So maybe it's not,
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
The recruiting numbers changed. So who knows? Maybe. Who knows? Maybe. Yeah. But yeah, we'll see. It's already shaping out to be a classic Rose Bowl Big Ten championship game right now. USC is so back. Yeah. Should we just move will that make the Rose Bowl people happy if we just move the Big Ten championship game to Pasadena? That's going to happen eventually, right? Even if it's not permanent, they'll do 1 year in Indianapolis, 1 year in Pasadena, something like that. You say yes excitedly, Zach, but I don't want it to be in Pasadena.
Nope.
I'd much rather play it in Indianapolis, or the Bears are talking
Chicago.
The Bears are talking about either covering Soldier Field or building a new stadium. That would be ideal to me. But you're not going to play that outside.
Yep.
I don't think they're not going to choose to play that game outside.
No, they won't.
So until that happens, so until there's an indoor facility in Chicago that isn't Northwestern's practice facility, you will continue to see that game, I would say, played in Indianapolis for the foreseeable future. Maybe with one-offs here or there in Pasadena. I'd be pissed if they did a permanent move or even a 50-50 move to Pasadena, though. That would suck, in my opinion. But again, you get a covered stadium in Chicago. Now we're talking.
Yep.
All right, Kyle. That's it. That's the end of today's show. Indy is center. It's center, and it's also like nobody's home. I know Bloomington's not that far from Indianapolis, but also Indiana sucks, so who cares? But it feels central but neutral. All right. Anyway, end of the show. Tonight's ending music, Columbus-based band called The Vessels. Name of that band again is The Vessels. So with all that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to drink local beer, listen to local music, and of course, support your local podcasters. Once again, these are The Vessels.